looks like 6 o'clock we'll call the meeting to order for the Crestview Charter Review Committee. We've got the microphones all around, so hopefully they can pick up the sounds. Thomas, how's it coming in? Okay.
Can you hear it, or do we need to set them back on the corners of the table? You're okay?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Okay, that's great. I'll try to speak up in my right.
Okay. We gotta start this thing. Did you start that one? Very good.
Okay, the first item for consideration is approval of the minutes from August the 3rd, 2017 and August 17th, 2017. Is there action or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the August 3rd, 2017 and August 17th, 2017 minutes as they are written.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. McKinney. Any questions, comments about those minutes? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. I would announce that former Mayor Jared Milligan will not be able to attend because of a conflict. He apologized for that. So we would like to welcome Mayor Kate
Thank you.
to participate in our committee meeting tonight. And I would like to ask you if you would like to make some opening comments, or would you like for the board to maybe pose some questions to you for answers, or
However you want to do it, it'd be fine. I just thank all of you for taking your time to be a part of this very important commission and doing a great service for the city.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. If the committee is willing, I have one question for the
Sure
mayor
thing.
to get started, and maybe I'll get kind of in the frame of mine. And I noticed the comment that I have in my notes before I saw the draft document that Teresa and her staff has prepared for us tonight says the same thing, similar, but not in detail. But my question is, if the mayor is familiar with the duties and responsibilities that's proposed in this charter. Okay, that's good. Is
Our
the
current
same-
charter, you're talking about the current.
charter, well, the proposed charter.
I have not seen the proposed charter.
Okay, the proposed charter is the same document that was,
The one that was proposed in 2012.
Oh, I remember that one, yes.
okay. And what it has a list of duties and powers of the mayor. It has a real good list. We could read those if you wish. But my question was, are there additional powers and duties that you would like to suggest to be included in the new draft, of the proposed charter change to the committee?
One of the things that I thought was very important that I lobbied for the last time around is that the mayor remain a non-voting member of the council, which gives the mayor the opportunity to speak individually with each member. That's been very helpful. One thing that I did suggest, and the council approved that, was that the mayor would moderate the meetings, be in charge of the meetings, and we never got farther than that. If the mayor couldn't be there, how they would do that. I don't think that was ever delineated there, but gives the mayor a role. I know they do that in Fort Walton Beach, but I'm not sure that he may have a vote down there. I'm not really sure about that, but I think that's a good way to go for that.
What this proposed charter makes a statement that the mayor would participate. Let me get the exact word. Instead of moderating the meeting, it's been included.
Article 4012.
Participate in all meetings. The
Yeah,
council has
participate.
authority to
Participate.
participate in discussions, but without power to vote.
Right.
Okay, so you're free to participate and make comments?
Yes.
Or any suggestions as you see fit during the course of the meeting.
Yes.
Well, what my thought was when we previously discussed this, at our last meeting, we moved along very well in that meeting, was to try to give the mayor the authority that the mayor needs to have oversight of the activities of the city. And in the proposed charter, you'll be relieved from being the department head of the police and fire department, freeing you up from those duties in the time that you spend supervising those two departments. And you would have more time to, in my thought, is oversee the entire city and the operation of the city and make comment in those meetings, and that's what this document says.
Remind me, Mr. Connor, I can't remember how we covered it a few years ago, that now the mayor has the authority to initiate investigations.
Yes.
And I'm not sure whether that's in the proposed one.
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Because I've had to do that several times.
Yes.
And I think that gives it a little bit more independent voice than, it's hard for the council to initiate it. They can initiate an investigation, but there needs to be a point person on that. And that also keeps, if there is a city manager or whatever, that keeps them out of that situation, which is not a great place for them to be.
I apologize that we didn't get you a copy of that so you could have to review it. So, having said what we've said tonight, if you will take this proposal
Sure.
and look that over, and at our next meeting, if this board is in agreement, but there's going to be others asking the questions. If you wish to come back and make your comments or provide your comments of additional things that you would like to be included into the mayor's duties and responsibilities, if you would do that.
Sure, I'd be glad to anytime.
If you wish to attend, that would be fine. If you wish to make that available to Teresa, if the committee is in agreement with that.
When's the next meeting?
I'm open to receiving any information that we can receive, but with that being said, the following meeting is where we are actually supposed to be wrapping everything up
That's right.
and checks and balances with legal to ensure that we meet our deadline. So, I don't know.
I don't want to
September,
put my
it's
my reason
September.
is not putting the mayor on the spot tonight, having reviewed all the details of that, but we want the mayor to be able to make his suggestions, just like this document says that any suggestions that you would have is included.
If I may, I think I should lead off with some questions, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for
Do that.
coming this
Mhm.
evening. From what do you see from your current vantage point as the pros and cons of current oversight? And when I say that, I mean, is there a position that is lacking that you would have at your current structure, you would be able to have more oversight if it was placed in the ordinance?
There's I think that we would be better off if we had a chain of command type of structure, that someone would be, that all the department heads could answer to and do their duties. That way I think we would have a little bit better communication, and it would be a more efficient way to run a government. The only two ways that I know to go about that is city manager and strong mayor. I've never worked in either situation, so I can't say what I would. I don't have an opinion about which one of those would be best, but I know those. But whichever way that you would recommend, there needs to be more cohesiveness from the bottom on up to the top.
I think this would lead on to that then, Mr. Mayor. Are there any oversight downfalls that you can, off the top of your head, without working in that environment, assess or foresee, I guess would be the better term, with a city manager structure that could, that hierarchy you talk about is great. Yes, it creates more efficiency, but is there something that would worry you about that power being in the one position that we would be able to take care of at that time?
I was concerned the last time around about when it was being suggested and voted upon as the city manager, is that the reason I pushed so hard for the mayor to be in charge of the meetings is that that gives the mayor a little bit more voice than what would happen in a city manager type situation. And I don't know, I look at Niceville, and that mayor's been there a really long time and a great guy. And the city manager's been there a long time too. They have a great working relationship. I am not really sure what the mayor of Niceville does, and some of the other places too. It's just hard for me to ascertain which would be the best one for us. Now there's some, and I have asked around, and I've gotten, the only place I know where there's a strong mayor is Pensacola. And depending on who you ask, you'll find out whether that's good or the most horrible thing that ever happened. So that's all I do know.
Any other questions? I would make one comment adding to that. Dr. Getch was at our meeting last night, and he touched on that. He spent a good time touching on the mayor, manager form of government. He says that the most access, or the most democratic, I'm not quoting him, but the most democratic way is the mayor. But the most efficient way, in his opinion, was a city manager form of government.
Well, I do know that when Pensacola went to the strong mayor, the first thing that the mayor did was hire a manager that reports to him. And so evidently he understood the need. The mayor is not going to be trained in all those different areas where they have to take care of. So he would need a manager, I think, to do the day-to-day business of it. The mayor ends up doing, believe me, a lot of ceremonial duties that the people expect you to be there, and it's things every week for me. And along with, of course, being the CEO of the city, you're the one that's also expected to speak for the city on different things that come along, that sort of thing. That's who, when there's something coming up, that's who the news, Channel 3 comes to. Could you quote on this? And they want me to quote on things actually before it's actually been decided, so I have to walk that tightrope a little bit. But no, I do want to see whichever way it goes. I think it would help to have a little bit more cohesiveness.
Thank you for your comments. Any other questions for the mayor?
As we think about the charter and the roles and responsibilities, I'm curious, in your current day-to-day operations, what occupies most of your time right now?
I suppose, well, here's the thing I was going to touch on a while ago. We don't have a strong mayor form of government here, but evidently 80% of our people think we do. Because my office, it's hardly a day that goes by that I'm not called about a water bill, which I have no control over whatsoever, or a street light being out, or a myriad number of things. And today I didn't take the call, but Z did. Somebody was complaining about we weren't coming out to inspect their AC installation quickly enough. And we don't, we try to be very careful when we get those calls. It's because people don't really know. They really don't know. The thing that I have done from the day one is to develop a good working relationship with every department head. And they know that I'm not trying to run their department. I'm just the messenger. And that's what I tell the people when they call. Sometimes I used to tell them, I can't do anything about that. Now I said, I'll pass this along to the proper people to handle this. Because I have found out, folks, working in a bureaucracy, people want to be heard by someone in the government. And I sit there and try to listen to it. Sometimes the things that I've listened to has been strange. But I try to take notes. I try to ask questions. And sometimes I shake my head when it's all over. But I think that's maybe no matter what type of government we have to be ready and willing to listen to people. And sometimes they come in, and my whole idea is when they come in there, a lot of times they come in there very angry. And it's very important to me that they're not angry when they leave. that I will show interest in what they're doing. I hope anybody that works for the city will do that sort of thing. I think that's good customer relations.
Well, that explains, many times, for lack of a better term, people are expecting a chain of command somewhere.
Yes, they are.
Which under the present system, they don't know where to go, so they go
Sure.
to you. And that's the core aim, I think, of what we're doing.
That's right.
We've got to have,
Whoever that person is.
and apparently the strong mayor is the best, in my opinion, the best approach with the city manager who works with him, whatever capacity.
The only time I ran afoul of council members was in 2012, when I exercised the authority that I had about police, the chief of police, whether to relieve them of their duties. The chief of police was very close friends with most of the council members, and they felt that they could overturn that decision, which they could not. They did not have the authority, even though one of them called our 2 or 3 different attorneys for the state and everything, and tried to call the state attorney's office and, get me impeached and that sort of thing. But I think as time went on, they found out things that I knew that they didn't know, and that sort of relieved itself. But it can be a very uncomfortable position when you're not allowed to really speak of the things. And that's one of the things that the mayor works with, is the confidentiality thing, that we have people coming in and wanting to talk. And developers like to come in and talk to the mayor, whether he's in charge of growth management or anything else. They want to talk about their development that they want to bring to town, talk about any problems or where they see the success may lie.
That's great, and that's what our approach has been to this, is to free your time up, and if they come to see you, maybe you can send them to this new person in charge if it comes about. But at any rate, any other questions for the mayor? I would like to make a comment for the board's discussion so we can move forward, as Mr. Lane has pointed out, that on the 3rd page of the new draft that Teresa has prepared for us tonight,
I was gonna say, it malfunctioned, all pages are
I was like,
taken.
8?
I'm sorry, all pages
It'd be like I
malfunctioned.
did, counting pages.
But if you count to page 3,
Count the pages.
Just tell us to turn to page 8.
And Teresa has included within that, that we discussed at the last meeting, is my major concern with the whole document, is to allow the mayor the duties and responsibilities to, as you being the mayor, if they're inadequate in this document, to add, and that's what it's for, is any additional recommendation for special oversight and supervision. And if you could have that for Teresa.
Sure will.
In a timely manner, so we would have it in the document next week when the attorney comes in, and hopefully Graham can be here, because we want to get his expertise in his field and not have to go out and hire a consultant.
Let me mention one thing, especially what's fresh on our minds right now in Texas, is that the mayor is looked to make the one to decide the state of emergency, that sort of thing. Back when we had the ice storm here just a few years ago, we were in really bad shape here. We had people who needed to get to the hospital and couldn't get out. We had them stopped. We had cars that were stalled and this sort of thing. And I kept waiting for the county to declare an emergency, but as is so often the case, it was a different situation in South County than it was up here. I did take it upon myself to declare the state of emergency probably 1 to 2 hours before. Now, I didn't get any backlash from it, because there's nothing that says that I can't do that at any time. But I think, and I noticed this on here, that I think it's still in this proposed ordinance that the mayor would be able to declare a national, not a national, but a local emergency and that sort of thing.
But if you would, Mr. Mayor, if you would review this proposed document or draft document,
Mm-hmm.
and when it comes down to item 8, there might be others, but if you would provide those to Teresa, her department, so they can include that in what our attorney's going to review with us when he comes next week.
Yes, sir.
To have that included.
I appreciate that.
If that's okay, is that,
Yes,
is
I
that
will.
okay? Should we have a consensus of the committee that the mayor will?
And when will you meet again?
The
The
first.
7th.
The seventh.
Seventh.
The seventh.
The seventh,
The
Okay.
1 week,
Very good.
1 week, so you got a couple of days, you can do it on your day off Monday.
Thank you.
Teresa, this might be something that you can also review, because this lays out quite a bit of those,
Our hierarchy.
the
They
meeting
have a copy.
moderator, ceremonial figurehead,
Do y'all have
declared
this?
times of emergency.
That's translated into something that can
I
go.
would just offer one suggestion, that the moderator and in your
It's-
document, it's been corrected.
I got a question mark out whether or not it was going to be the council meeting moderator or not. I wasn't sure from the chart I had whether or not that was to be something that was included for the mayor, or if it was not. It appeared on the sketch I had, down in the bottom where it had the duties, it actually said meeting moderator.
I think that was the idea back, the last one, I believe it was, the meeting.
The first thing listed here is city council meeting moderator. So, and that's the reason it appeared in our hierarchy.
And that's how it's essentially worded in 4.2, participate in the meetings, city council with the authority to participate in discussions without the power to vote.
But
So-
is the moderator do they lead the meeting? I
They
wasn't
follow
sure
the
what
agenda.
y'all intended as moderator.
And just
Whether
like the
you're gonna-
president of the council does now.
Yeah, that's, what I say, the moderator would actually operate and lead the meeting, whereas just participating is what is done now.
Which,
So I need to know the difference, what y'all are defining as moderator.
My thoughts on that, I'm not speaking for the committee, but the committee talk, is to participate, because the mayor has this whole page of authority to
intervene as needed.
intervene anytime during that meeting, is recognized by the chairman, to participate and have your say-so in that meeting. It's not like that you just sit there and let them do their business, but you participate in that meeting. As you was one of them, you just don't vote. That's being my,
So I have a slightly different opinion.
Okay.
On the, cause I put it in there that to serve as the meeting moderator, without having a vote. And the reason which that would eliminate the chairman of the council and the vice chairman of the council. And, it would also serve as beefing up the mayor's ability to have checks and balances on the council itself. So he would actually be the moderator but not have a vote.
Here's one question to that though, but how would somebody who doesn't necessarily vote be able to table a discussion? I mean, if that's the chair and the vice chair, I mean, the president's essentially gonna say, we're not gonna handle this tonight.
Right.
So,
I think it's the same, regardless of whether one has a vote or not has a vote, you still can table it.
It'd be a good idea if I contact Mayor Reinierson at the Fort Walton Beach and get a bit clearer idea of exactly what their charter has, what he does. He just recently became mayor, and so I'll find out and just share that with you, and just for your information.
was the committee in agreement to allow Cal to pose some questions. Yes, we have that. Do you have a question, Cal?
Some towns have a mayor pro temp who will serve in the absence of a mayor. And I've seen it where that mayor pro tem was a member of the council who presided, the mayor was not there.
The president.
Yeah, not a president or vice president, but they would have somebody as mayor pro tem. We might ask the mayor what they do in Fort Walton, I don't know.
Sure, Anna.
According to their document, it says the mayor shall preside at meetings of the city council and shall have the power to perform the duties conferred and imposed by the charter and the ordinances of the city. The mayor shall be recognized as head of the city government in all ceremonial purposes by the courts when serving civil processes, by the governor for the purpose of military law. In the time of public danger and emergency, the mayor shall, if so authorized, directed by the vote of the council, take command of the police and maintain order and enforce the law. And that's what Fort Walton Beach does. Which, that would prove that he is fully a moderator in their meetings.
Correct.
Mhm. I know, I've watched on their TV, I know how, watched that, he,
I don't really, it don't make any difference who presides over the meeting, or who moderates the meeting. The mayor will probably get a briefing from the city manager before the meeting, however it goes. So
there does need to be a mayor pro tem, which take like the place of the president now. I know I call on, if I'm gonna be out of town or can't do a ceremony that, I look to usually the president first, to fill in for me on stuff like that, but, it needs to be a designated person for that sort of thing.
Basically like they do with the president now, you know, they elect the
So we,
president.
we're looking at, two suggestions, would somebody, would you, clarify your position on that, and then we'll talk about it, and,
Yeah, that's, so my position is real similar to the way it currently is in Fort Walton Beach, where the mayor is the moderator with a city council member, selected as the pro tem. And, he has no vote though. He basically just, you know, leads the discussion and the agenda.
I do believe the one at Fort Walton has a vote.
This-
Does it say?
Well, it says here, the mayor pro tem shall be chosen from the members.
Mhm.
The mayor shall have all rights, privileges,
Well,
and duty
okay.
as a member of the council, except the mayor shall have the right to cast the deciding vote should any issue.
He could break a
before-
tie.
You're a tiebreaker.
I would suggest not having that language. I don't think the mayor should break a tie, because what that means, he's under the sunshine law violations, even if he just breaks a tie. And a lot of people have complained to us about not having that ability, back when we only, where there's only 4 acting because someone's ill or something, and there's been 2 votes, which means the measure doesn't pass. But I really like, in my position now, of being able to talk to each council member about issues that are coming up.
Allows you to keep the pulse.
Yes.
On how, it's a rule of 3
Now, I am not allowed to say,
to share information between.
I think you should do this because so-and-so says he's going to support it. That's a violation of the sunshine law, and I do not do that.
Not in a position to vote. Okay, so we've got the mayor's position.
Could I ask one question? You mentioned the sunshine law. In one of our meetings, somebody said something about the mayor not being under the sunshine law. Would you clarify, the mayor is under the sunshine law?
Well, there's certain things that the mayor is under the sunshine law about, but it's not a violation, the mayor, but it's not a violation for the mayor to speak to a council member about an issue that's coming before the council. That's not a violation. But yeah, I don't want to, that he doesn't serve under the sunshine law, he does.
But he couldn't carry that to another council member and
No.
talk about their discussion.
There's where the violation comes in.
There's the violation.
Third party.
If the board committee will allow, would you introduce yourself and pose your question now?
My name is Alicia Adams. I'm with the Crestview News Bulletin. I was going to talk before you guys would talk about the tiebreaker thing. I know in Milton, that's how they do it. The mayor is the moderator, and he only has a vote when there needs to be a tiebreaker. So, but I see that that's
Okay, thank you for those comments. Okay. Phil, the mayor doesn't want to have a vote.
Right.
In this
Correct.
particular one.
This mayor does.
This mayor, that's
Probably won't be there forever.
our mayor tonight. Sorry for that. But at any rate, so we need to clarify that. If we go with the moderator, is the moderator, we have pro tem, that fills in his absence. So if the pro tem is filling in for the mayor, do they have a vote?
I would say no.
So there you come to the two tie thing.
No, but, yeah, but he would be serving in the place of the mayor.
Yeah.
His seat would be vacated at that time. He
Yeah.
would be serving the
Well-
capacity of the mayor. Yeah.
Could be the just designate the president will serve that role, and that the president wouldn't lose his vote then.
Because he would still be subject to the sunshine law.
Yes, yes,
As a council, it wouldn't be like he steps out of his subjection to the sunshine law.
right.
He would just be serving as the moderator in that instance, the same way our current president serves as the moderator and still have a vote.
Okay, so if you will, to move us forward from this point, could we have a motion for a consensus of the committee of how you would propose that we go with this?
I motion that the president would be the pro, the mayor is not available.
The president of the council
Yes.
feel that position?
So if we went the direction of the mayor serving as the meeting moderator, there would be no president or chairman of the council. There would, however, be a council member selected to be the mayor pro tem, and he would be the vice chair would currently.
Well, the vice should move up to the next position. If the president moves into the mayor's position, the vice should move into his position.
And just
Well,
The
there
way
was-
it's being currently worded, it's the opposite of what is currently being done in the city. As we speak, there would be no president and vice chair and chair, because the mayor would actually be the moderator running the meetings, but without a vote.
So, if they would address the, mayor, if you have business from Florida, anyone coming forward would be recognized by the mayor, and you would state your business to the mayor instead of the chairman of the,
Correct.
city council.
I just looked at this, and they have 7 council members, a mayor. 1 council member is mayor pro tem. Rebel Ramswell has that position. So they elect from the council,
Who's the pro tem?
who is the pro tem.
Right.
I
And
think
the
that's
mayor
perfect.
has a vote?
Well, the mayor does not vote in Destin, but they have a mayor, and they have 7 council members. 1 of those 7 is chosen annually to be mayor pro tem.
Right.
I-
That then changes who signed your document language in your charter.
Well, the mayor now still has 5 days to sign ordinances, and if it's not signed within 5 days, it's considered to have passed.
Someone, restate that, how you.
Certainly. I move that we consider having the office of the mayor serve as the city council meeting moderator with a mayor pro tem selected from the members of the council by the members of the council, serving a term of 1 year.
I concur. I'll say yes, just as a consensus. Consensus?
Nay.
Consensus?
Nay.
Nay? Okay. Mr. Stricker?
Yes.
Okay, so, well, let make it count easy. We got, 6 yeas
Yes.
and 1 no. Okay, that's good. So that is the, consensus, if you will.
Thank you.
Include
Okay.
that.
Have a little bit.
Okay.
You,
So.
do you need me any further?
We will have a moderator, from this committee's recommendation.
And I think the mayor should serve us dinner tonight.
The mayor's interested in having dinner tonight. I have never,
We're gonna try to move along.
I've never missed a meal, and I don't want to start tonight.
We've, actually gone past our hour and a half tonight.
No,
No, I looked at
this
the
one,
room.
what?
Oh,
Goodness gracious.
Not quite, yeah.
Are you ready for him to go to supper, is that okay?
Yes, sir. Any other questions for the mayor? He's ready to go. Having done, Mr. Mayor, thank you for coming out tonight, and if you will provide
I sure will.
any comments.
Thank you so
to,
And again, thank you all for taking a thankless task.
And thank you for providing that insight from the real-life operating mayor.
I don't know how operating I'm doing today.
Okay. Teresa, for the next item, as we said, Mr. Milligan can't be here as it relates to department head. You're the only
I'm the only
head
department head here.
represented. If it's acceptable with the, committee, I have, one prepared comment for Wayne, hoping he would be here tonight, public services director.
He hadn't said that he would come, next Thursday, but he'd been up all night sick, so.
Okay, that's good. I'm gonna pose this question
Okay.
to you at the, department head Wayne Still. Brief overview of, your department. I had public services, so Wayne can't be here. And how you communicate back and forth with council members. And I kind of think that how you communicate back and forth is probably the way that Wayne communicates, doesn't happen.
Well, if you want me to just take a few minutes and tell you why, the growth management director, previously called the administrative services director, is completely different from all the other department heads, is because, I am really the administrative assistant to the council. And that position is under the administrative, section 227 in our code of ordinances. And it creates the position of the administrative assistant, which was created by Don Morrison. And he was our first administrative assistant and probably prepared most of our original code of ordinances. And so I'm selected by the council. I work directly under the council as their employee. I perform all administrative duties assigned by the council and carry out all their administrative duties for the governing body of the city. The administrative assistant is directly responsible, but I have no independent authority to act unless specified by the council. And I shall assist all other departments within the city government in carrying out their administrative duties of other departments, and provided the council approves of such administrative undertakings. Which means at one time, administrative services was a library for all forms in the cities, all documents, all policies and procedures were updated, and we provided a notebook to everybody, which provided everybody kept current. So that was one of the responsibilities that went there along with it. Now, over the gyration of the changes from 2012, the administrative services duties are kind of diluted. Okay? Because I'm the administrative assistant to the council, I'm designated as the local administrator. And what the local administrator is destined to do, they do the permit procedures for building construction. They must take do the development permit for construction, improvements of structures, all the forms prior to development, limited to but not following any type of drawings, construction plans, location, elevations, dimensions, existing and proposed structures, the earth and fill that would be doing, the shortage of materials or equipment, drainage facilities, the location of any of the foregoing roads, and specifies, and there's about another 2 pages of that. Also, the administrative assistant must review all floor plan elevations and flood proofing certificates. And note any deficiencies held by policyholders. In short, they're the floodplain administrators. And we'll go into that a little later. The permitting procedures for any other developments, which includes subdivisions. You must adhere to the construction plans for buildings, as well as bridges, subdivisions, shopping centers, other large construction projects, and include substantial site development, alteration, and the administrative assistant will follow any of the prior development activities included but not limited any type of duplication of plans, nature, location, buildings, elevation, questions, whether or not it's proposed to existing, transferring of earth and material, storage of materials, equipment, drainage facilities, and location of any of the foregoing regulations. They will also secure the grading drainage plans, your stormwater management plans, your floodplain studies, including modeling of the hydrology of the system, the extent of watercourse, swamps, marshes, and to the extent of water. That'll save about 3 paragraphs. Okay. Topographic mapping, rise to certification of floodways, and all the boundaries as approved and submit into FEMA. And we have 30 days to completion of any of the alterations to the FEMA maps. Other duties of their local administrative, who is the duties of the administrative assistant, shall include but not limited to review of all permittings that require the state permitting, such as specific federal, state, county, assuring that they meet the requirements, and maintain copies of all those. Notify adjacent communities, State Department of Community Affairs, which is now the DOE, Division of Emergency Management, the West Florida Regional Planning Council, the Northwest Florida Water Management District, any alteration of any type of drainage structures, floodplain that would consist of interaction with FEMA. And I won't elaborate the rest of them, but to see the administrative assistant to the council wears a number of hats. In short, that is your building and inspection department, that is your planning and zoning department, that is your code enforcement, that is also your CRA department. Plus your administrative services, which allows for the administrative abilities as permitted by council. To say I interact with the council, I'm their assistant. I can pick up the phone and call them when I need to. If I need to request a meeting, a special meeting, if I need to request anything like under that venue, I'm an email or a phone call away. So I have the council's ear for the projects and the responsibilities. Now, not so much for the independent needs of the department. Because even though you're responsible for all of the extraneous items, your department needs, you still fall in a ranking command with the other departments as to what you need, what type of staff you could use, your building, your maintenance, any of that falls under, you're still over here ranked with the other department heads. You're still in a group together there. So you have no special input with the council on those type of items.
One comment as it relates to previous discussions with this department. It was recently, figuratively speaking, created by ordinance by the city council. We have discussed this to some detail, that we tried to remove as much of this out of the new charter, to do it by ordinance, and Teresa's done a pretty good job of doing that. Whereas the public works director, the police chief, fire chief are mentioned and created in the charter. And those are charter functions, and now through the years, city council has interpreted that differently. At a particular time that Mr. Morrison was hired, they had the ability and used their ability to create this position by ordinance, whereas the charter has created certain positions which we follow through, and that's where the public services director derives his authority and power, if you will, from, because the charter regulates his duties and responsibilities. Whereas Teresa, the job is what the ordinance says versus what the charter says. To change that, all they have to do is change the ordinance and not vote in a new charter. Okay, thank you, Teresa.
Well, that being said, the administrative assistant to the council would essentially, under a city manager, become the city manager. So essentially allowing that role to fall back into as the department head.
That's correct. Under the responsibility of the city manager, on our box flow chart, her department would come under direction of under the new charter, proposed charter, under the supervision of the manager.
There may still be somebody labeled administrative assistant to the council, but they would fall underneath the city manager.
Well, that would be, if you'll notice, we now call that in the department hierarchy, and that is the growth management department.
Right.
Because that's their terminology now. When they call it administrative assistant to the council, even some of our council mistakes that as being the secretary to the board. To call and remind him of appointments, to make sure that something's printed out. So that terminology, administrative assistant to the council, when we're redoing the articles that go along with the charter is section A. You begin your articles in section B. Section 2 actually has where you delineate out your boards, your administrative assistant. All that will need to be tailored after the passage of the charter.
That's right. And the city council and whoever is in the admin department is gonna be busy drafting ordinances, reflecting changes. Yeah. And Teresa might not even get a 30-minute lunch then. She might have to bring her sack.
What's lunch?
Okay, we've moved along. Any questions, comments where we are? Sorry that Wayne is not here tonight to speak for his department, but if he has comment.
The one thing I wholeheartedly support the manager. So.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Teresa. Moving on to item 4, interactive committee discussion. So, committee, speak your. Teresa, do you have anything to add into that section before we?
No, just that I can see where a manager or somebody that would take care of the managerial, running, operational type things would be a great asset to our department, so that we can continue and go forth with the job we need to do.
I understand. Okay.
And the beauty of that is that you would be responsible to one individual
Instead of
not a room full.
That's right.
Although they are all men.
Who also have different ideas. They've got 5 different ideas or
Yeah.
opinions of
And they all
how.
power.
and they all have their own perspective
That's
on
right.
how to
And
tell you.
that's the
to do
good
something.
part of what, this committee has selected.
How well do you sleep at night?
She doesn't.
Oh, gee, that's the-
I am luckily blessed with insomnia. I average about 3 hours a night.
Oh, my.
See, I have another job also, so I have a real job too, so it works out fine.
Okay, having said that, comments?
I do have one thing I want to mention, and if we can at least get some a definitive answer on it, it would help. We've decided to go with the preside over the meetings, you know, and then there not be the chair or vice chair, and we select the pro temp. So my one question, I'd like to see how the destin or is, if the mayor / council has 5 days to sign off on an ordinance or document coming through, is there any conflict of interest if the mayor is actually the person who has the ability to veto, and then the mayor would also be the person signing for any documentation leaving the council?
He still has the authority to veto stuff in the current state. We're not changing that.
Correct, but if he's signing off on the one, I just seeing how if there's a conflict or in Destin or in Fort Walton Beach, who signs off on it? Because current, it's the president and the city clerk, and then it goes on to the mayor for his signature. So I'd just like
The way I read this thing,
Clarification.
that the city manager takes over, does have the responsibility of the mayor. I mean,
Okay.
the mayor, the city clerk, and then,
The city manager.
City
Okay.
manager signs those documents, and the budget and all those various things.
okay.
Who coordinates that effort. Okay. I got, on page, I don't know. But it's 501, Article 5.
I'm glad we're revisiting. That was gonna be, I had
Uh,
501.
I put a question in the highlighted area there. When I was a city council member, way back when, for 4 years, I was president of the council. Back then, payroll checks were run on Thursdays. I came in and signed, put a real signature on all the checks. You had purchase, not purchase orders, but every contract, every check that was cut, the clerk signed, and the president of the council. If the president of the council wasn't available, the vice president of the council. So we made arrangement to be there to sign all the checks. So the president of the council knew where money was going, but near the end of that, to give you a little background, the electronic. So you started making direct deposits and taking it out, employees' checks going to the credit union, wherever they selected for their checks to go. So I think to maintain that integrity of someone knowing where the checks are going, that there be an electronic printout or something of that sort for the president of the council or the city manager. It doesn't say, it goes over where the duties of the city manager are. He works with the clerk and countersigns documents and those various things and his responsibility. But I still believe that all the electronic transfers and all should be available for review, for oversight. Let me use that word, for oversight. Just not let the electronic transfers go and never question where they're going, how much they are for. That should be oversight on all expenditures of the city of Crestview. And let someone have that authority or responsibility, whether it's the city manager, president of the council, but someone would have oversight of all expenditures.
Well, the city clerk and the finance department should be able to cut a end of month budget statement, and that would essentially go on to the city manager for his review, maybe even put a signature on there, that way that individual can't say, I didn't see it.
That's right.
It's part of their duties and description.
And make that available to the council, since in the end, they are the ones that,
I like the current wording where it says the city clerk shall review, approve all checks, electronic transfers with the city manager. I'm okay with just leaving it as that.
I am too.
With, with because of course the city council is gonna provide oversight, broadly speaking.
Does this mean, when it says with the city manager, does that mean in addition to the city manager?
Yes, that's correct.
The two of them
Well,
together.
that's, in my mind, that's a little misleading. It says shall review, countersign, approve with the city manager. Does that mean they sit down and they do it together?
The two of them do it together, yes. That's how I would.
Okay. Okay.
That's the way I'm taking it.
Review, countersign,
Together.
and provide the city man, I mean, I personally think if it's written where they will review it together.
And truth be told, I'm sorry, I cut you off, I apologize. I think that this section here will probably, once it goes to approval stage, it's gonna be wordsmithed by legal, and they're gonna make sure that it's within the confines of Florida
And that's why
statutes.
we want our attorney here next time where we've got some question, we want legal expertise to,
I did have one question, at the top of 5.01 is the city clerk. Are we saying here that the city clerk shall be hired and fired by the city council, or do we want the city manager to do the hiring and firing of the city clerk?
I think it's pretty important, since they're gonna be signing these documents, that the city council hire that person. The city council is going to have that responsibility over that person, and there's no collusion. They will have oversight over the clerk also, because in the end, according to the flow chart, they are the person.
Because if we keep it this way, this wording would say basically that the city manager is not the city clerk's supervisor.
Well, that was the reason for the change here, or for the question here. It says here that the city manager, so under, and this is just to read, under the direction, guidance, and appointment of the city manager comes the police, the fire, the public services, and the parks rec, growth management, library, and the human resources. Under the appointment of the city council and under the direction and guidance of the city manager would be, falls the city clerk. And it was never mentioned about the finance department and the utility
That's
department.
where my concern is because, if the city council in the current state is hiring and firing the city clerk and providing supervision, that puts finance and utilities underneath the city clerk, underneath the council, and now the city manager has no control over his finance department and utilities. And other cities have reported that they've done that exact thing, and it creates a war where the head of finance knows that he doesn't fall under the manager and ultimately doesn't have to listen to his inputs. That's kind of the conflict. So I can understand the strength of having a city clerk not underneath the city manager. I can see there some strengths, but I think that it would create a myriad of problems as well.
I like the separation of the finance, but I do think that your comments outweigh the worries of the finance piece. That would take one tool away from the city manager to manage the city.
Well,
If it was.
We're going at this that the city manager can create all of these efficiencies for the city, and if we take away his finance department, then he actually can't create efficiencies.
Okay. Is it the understand, or because there was not anything clearly on any of the markups, that I received, about moving that, the way I was taking it was that the city clerk would be appointed by the council. However, she was directly under, as well as the departments that she has now, would be under the direction and guidance of the city manager, or in other words, would be under the control of the city manager, even though that one was actually hired by the council.
I think that would.
So we need it,
I think that would create, enforcement, challenges, because if the city clerk is if the authorization to appoint and dismiss the city clerk is at the discretion of the council, not the city manager can't really do anything, because the city clerk says, I don't care what you have to say.
You know, like,
You don't hire me or fire me.
that's the way the setup is now.
Right.
The city clerk, that's her own,
Well, she's
gonna be
accountable to
swayed.
the electorate,
Yeah, that's right.
But if we move away from that, it would create, and it's not so much the city clerk not falling under the city manager that creates the problems, it's finance and utilities not falling under the manager. That's where I think the absolute sticking point is.
so,
Because if you got the city manager hiring the clerk, there is an opening for collusion.
There is an opening for collusion.
Yes.
And I
Not
get
open.
that part, the finance and utilities is where, I think that absolutely has to be underneath the manager.
For his oversight.
so
Yes.
put the departments under there and you're wanting me to put the departments under the manager and leave the city clerk appointed?
Well, my preference would be that the city clerk falls under the city manager. That's my preference. But I can see the strengths of that not happening. But in our current form of government, the city clerk directs the finance and utilities. And, so if the city clerk if we were to just say, okay, city clerk falls under the council, manager falls under the council, it would split the finance and utilities away from the manager, and that is I think that's the worst thing, that could happen.
Okay, so, correct me if I'm wrong, is that in our block diagram, if we refer back to that, finance and utility, would still come under the, city council. Is that correct?
It would come under the current state, it comes under the clerk, and if the clerk is moved over, so it's not under the manager, and it comes underneath the council,
But can't we take the finance and utilities away from the clerk?
I don't know if we're allowed to do that statutorily or not, one way or the other. I would be
They
in
gotta
favor
work
of that.
together, that all works together, as a team, they've got to be right there. Working together, but the oversight is what we, to prevent collusion.
True. But
This-
still go back to the same thing, those two, again, the clerk can be like, well, you
Somebody
don't
got
have
their
no
destined
Yep.
thing there.
oversight with me, and,
Uh,
it could be a mess.
Look at,
We need to be very careful, like, that we don't tie the city manager's hands. He should be the one, he or she should be the one, in my view, hiring and firing for those positions. If there is ever a conflict, the mayor does have the IG capability.
Yes.
To come in and say, whoa, I wanna see a review of these finances. Or even the council can say, I wanna see a review or an audit
or
of
the
these
mayor,
finances.
or the
Mayor or
if
the
it's
council.
brought to their attention.
Because ultimately, the city manager is still going to have to answer to the council. And any one of those five can say, I'm calling you on this.
Okay.
Chairman, in the Fort Walton one, which is the one that we had been basing some of the stuff on,
Yeah.
under the section 20, it says that the city council shall appoint the city clerk and the city attorney, and all other officers, employees shall be selected by the city manager. It says the council fixes by resolution compensation for the manager, the mayor, the city clerk, and the city attorney. The city manager fixes salary and compensation for all other officers and employees. So that would tell me that all other officers and employees would therefore be under the city manager.
I'd absolutely be willing to incorporate that
Verbiage.
specific verbiage
Mhm.
into our, I can be okay if it's just a city clerk hired and fired by a city council and they have no other, departments falling underneath of that office, and that all, everything else is underneath the manager. I could be okay with that.
All right, Teresa, can we incorporate that
Section
in our
20.
flow,
Yeah,
in our
a
flow
section
diagram?
that verbiage.
Okay. That's good. Good
Yeah, you
comment.
also
Good
see
comment.
on section 15, in that same thing, it talks about the city manager acting as the chief conservator of the peace within the city, supervise the administration of the affairs of the city.
Okay,
And the main
so-
thing is talk about to advise the council on financial conditions and future needs of the city.
Okay, good. So where we'll go with, the.
So what that would do to our flow chart here is you would have the mayor, the city council, city clerk, general counsel, the lawyer, and then the city manager would have not the clerk, but it would have the finance, utilities, HR, police, chief, fire, everybody else is under here, and the
Okay.
council, clerk is up there.
And with Teresa's chart, flow chart, if you will, hierarchy chart, she can show that.
Well, we would split this right here under this, you'd have your city manager on one side, you'd have your city clerk there, and then everything else would fall under the city manager. And the administrative departments is that section 17, I don't know if y'all want to, look at that and, consider section 17 and 18 also from the Fort Walton Beach, document.
Page.
What's your document?
It was in, it might have been provided last week when you were not
In
here.
the full meeting.
I think.
Is there any way we can find out the attorneys or what have you who actually drafted the Fort Walton?
We can,
Yeah,
scope
because
that
they
out.
just had an election
Stream.
not too long ago to change their chart.
That could streamline, some of the verbiage issues that we're speaking about.
Okay. That's, good. We, in agreement with where we are at this time? Okay. To include that verbiage with, consideration of legal advice. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get some advice, legal advice on that.
Okay, very good.
Okay, are we ready to move on though? Okay. In a second.
Don't look at that clock. No, that's
In a
right.
second time.
On to
Let's-
page 8.
Let's go back to page 8 again. But it's actually Article 5, or 6, excuse me. Article 6, not the, first page of Article 6, but the second page, as it will, 60.04, elections and procedures. Teresa, I go to you to ask for the, for the.
For the grant,
For the grade highlight.
okay. This 604 concerns the, election procedures, and elections are gonna be held under the supervisor of election, making, arrangements. I don't think we add anything to the document by, elaborating his process or procedure there, because
I don't
these are standard by law.
Florida statute.
I'd strike it.
So those things.
I wonder, did you wanna leave the canvassing board? But that's still pretty standard, but, in discussion with Mr. Hawley, to offer you whether or not to leave item D, which is the canvassing board, in that particular 604.
I personally think elections are gonna be moderated at the state level. and
Exactly.
For us to try to reverb that out or modify it, it's gonna get overturned in any legal grounds.
I agree.
Right. So we're gonna strike, 604 completely.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Thank you.
do wanna go back to 5.04 departments. We just kind of discussed some of the other, and then we move into here, and department heads shall be appointed by the city council. With the recommendation, I mean,
Can we
That-
strike that?
That was something else, a page that needed to be, have, some attention to. The verbiage here, contradicts what y'all were intending by your hierarchy chart. So,
Minus the city clerk and the general, council, would we all be in agreement that the city manager does all the other hiring and firing?
Sounds good to me.
just,
Okay.
that's what you just, entered in with section 20 of, when we enter section 20 in, it's going to reverbalize this.
Thank you.
Okay, so 504, the city clerk working the red that we put in, that's gonna be right.
Mhm.
Okay, so we strike that.
That's where we had questions on those, that and the finance and utility departments.
What
their
I'm
peers
trying to
need
look
do.
for is oversight. Any other comment at this time? Okay.
Does the candidate qualifying oath have to be in here?
Not necessarily. A lot of these, especially when you get back to your policies and procedures, those can be done by ordinances, and they don't necessarily have to be in your charter.
Would we be okay removing the candidate qualifying oath?
But, that's fine with me. After this present city council, like the clerk, her term goes on in city council, so, when the charter is adopted, those that applies to,
Right.
it would be enforced at that time. So whatever is in effect at this time until, with the new charter, doesn't really apply to the current clerk and so on. Okay. So the ordinance is fine with me because that's what we're trying to do is shrink that title as much as we can to get it down to less 180 words, way below 180 words, as we said before. Okay, and precincts,
this I believe we're trying to move into, out of the charter and into the, annex.
Yes. Yes.
Or, articles, okay, annex, okay.
Cause that's a huge section, that's almost 3 pages.
okay, Teresa, if you would, section 607, are those are the things that we discussed that we would do by ordinance. So we can, what she has highlighted in blue or printed in blue is gonna go bye-bye.
Good.
Depending on the attorney's, review. So that's good, we like to see that go down. That was the advice of, the good doctor and also Graham and all those that have spoke is shrink it down as best you can. Okay, that goes on down to 7, is fine. Then we go to, section 9. Give us an explanation, Teresa.
It's the blue, and there was in the markups that I had. Section 9 said to actually discuss with, Graham Fountain about utilizing that as ordinances or versus the charter, and also discuss it with the attorney. I haven't had an appointment with Graham yet, so, we'll need to do that. And discussion with Mr. Holly about it, most of this type thing, we can condense it down and don't know if we can completely get rid of all of it, but some of it can actually go into, amendments and ordinances, by ordinances.
And that's the reason I suggested that at the last meeting, and like shrinking it down. I like to take advice from people I respect, and I respect Dr. Getch, I respect Jack Norman, I respect Brown and his comments. He has experience that we will never get. And if we can get free from his advice, I like to accept people that are smarter than I am. And they're I was just trying to steer us through this, and get it on the ballot, hopefully successfully passed. To streamline and make our government more efficient, to meet the needs of today. Okay, that's kind of my comments at this time, and I will ask Teresa to get into the, first of all, before we go there, I would confirm next meeting. Teresa, you got information for us or anything to add to it?
No, our meeting is September 7th, so if there's any additional comments, I'll be incorporating this over the weekend, so I need to know. We will probably email it to you, and if you have some additional suggestions or whatever, y'all can feed it back so we can have some type of, a document before you on the 7th that would be approvable.
So we're looking at, what we get from you. Would have any comments from the mayor?
Yeah, he said Tuesday would be great with him. He can have it by
Okay, so we can
Tuesday
have
morning.
those, and the document that you email out to us will be minus, the blue, and also the, clerk as it relates to the flow
As it
chart.
relates to the flow
Those-
chart.
Those comments. Any additional instructions that we might give to Teresa tonight?
Just the rewording of, that paragraph 17 from Fort Walton Beach.
Yeah, okay. And that would include,
And I think that'll cover everything. we
Yes,
talked
section
about.
20 and.
15 and 17. 16, 17.
There was, section 20, was the officer, there. Section 17 is the administrative departments there in Fort Walton. Is that something y'all would like to also include? The one that we read considering, all the employees being selected by the city manager is section 20 of the Fort Walton. And y'all were going to look, a moments ago, we're looking at the 17 and 18, which were they call it the administrative departments, but, it appears to be the working departments of the city there.
Okay. All of the.
And directs that the department would be supervised by a director. Okay, Teresa, you got us, set up for the, next meeting, and what you're going to try to get out to us before that day. Yes, sir.
And it will make those changes that we have suggested tonight. So the draft that she's going to email, will be kind of like what we got tonight, with a few changes, a few pages less. That's good. Okay, is there, comments from the public? Chris, Nikki, comments?
Yes, I do have some. First of all, I just discovered that the pro tem in Destin is a 2-year term rather than one down there for some reason. But they also have something that in both in Fort Walton just did approve in that last election. They have a residency requirement. We don't have it. You can live here 1 hour or 1 day as soon as you're written and run for any office in the city. There's no residency requirement in any of our offices. Most cities seem to have a 1-year residency, something for you to think about. I won't be here next Thursday, because if that may be your final meeting, that I would have had some more comments at, I'll be in Texas, hopefully in Austin, where they say it's sunny and dry when I talk to them today at my hotel. It's our national radio broadcasters meeting. There are about, I got a list from Paul about a month ago, there's about 13,500, give or take, registered voters in the city. And one thing I looked at and can see, the challenge is getting voters under 50 to vote in city elections. Very low number there. And the predominant people who vote over and over and over, they all were born 50 or more years ago, when looking at the birth dates in that column. So that's gonna be a challenge. How you're gonna promote this to get people, you're gonna send a document to the council, and as I saw the last time here and other places, the council can still do their own thing to it. Because as you remember, they changed it around to what some of them wanted. Then they would determine on when an election will be held. You know, it's gonna be a challenge to let the public know that this is out there, what it is. As part of the media myself, I hope that I will get, I've got one more council member to interview, and we've discussed the charter, and there are other things that they see about the city's future. But I will send an invitation to each of you to be a guest for an interview once the council, I think probably the time would be, once the council say, okay, here's when it's gonna go on the ballot. So then we'd be fresh in the mind of the voters, you know, any viewpoints or thoughts about why you put all these hours in and study work that you have done to try to get people out. I don't know whether you can go out and get somebody to get a PAC and raise some money to help promote it in any way. That's gonna be, you know, just up in the air for y'all to work with. But,
Historically speaking, Cal,
Yeah.
just to add to that, we need to attract, the people that do vote, and it's over 50 years. So that's the ones we need to concentrate on, the ones that do vote, not those that might.
yeah, right. I mean, the ones who do vote, you know, they can convince them, of course, and the older voter tends to be less likely to want to change anywhere
Yes.
you are at.
That's right.
When I was a young newsman in this part of the world, I would hear this old phrase, "We don't care what they do in the other town, we like how we do it here." And I've heard that, and we all have, I'm sure. Now, the newer phrase we hear now, we gotta think outside of the box. And I got thinking about this over this weekend in my trip to Kennesaw and Woodstock, Georgia. Some people don't even know how to push the lid off the box to look outside, to think outside. And you gotta find how to convince some of the people there is a reason for practical management, you know, what you do, you know. So I hope you can, but I mean, I will try to help to do what we can, you know, to get more people to at least be aware of what you want and why, and you know, I'll go out and do interviews with other city people in other cities, as part of, just like I'm doing, going to other towns and saying, hey, look at what they're doing, you know, in these towns, why not, you know, just, you know, other places are growing.
Thank you, Cal. Appreciate your comments. Okay, anyone else? Would you like to advertise, your work tonight, your work product, when it will be available?
Right now.
Is you streaming live then? Very good. Last week, 2 weeks ago, it was tomorrow, but tonight
It'll
it's
be
streaming.
on
That's great.
tomorrow as well.
Okay, any comments? Any comments at all before we adjourn from the committee?
I think
Oh,
we
did a
got a
good
very
job
good working
tonight.
document going on here.
I think we're trying to shrink it down, take
Yeah.
the advice of those that are,
Mhm.
know more about, this type of thing than we do, and that's a good thing. Thank everybody for being here tonight, and be looking forward, to closing this thing out if the attorneys are willing to work with us next meeting. Motion to adjourn? Second, we stand adjourned.